Today is Wednesday, June 8th, and we will call the Transportation and Commerce Committee to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderman Vaccaro.
Present.
Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Present.
I was present.
Alderman
Noted.
Ryan. Alderwoman Evans.
Present.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Present.
Chairman Cohn.
Present.
By present, you have quorum.
Great. Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from March 9th, 2022. Are there any questions? Hearing no questions, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from March 9th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Aye.
Alderman Ryan. Alderwoman Evans.
Aye.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Chairman Cohn.
Aye.
5 aye votes.
Wonderful. Thank you. I see that there's 2 items on the agenda that are sponsored by Alderman Coder. Is he here this morning?
I am, Chair.
Wonderful. Alderman, would you like to take up those items? I believe it's Board Bill 34 and Board Bill 35.
Certainly.
We'll start with
Would it be all
Board
right
Bill
with you
number
if I
34.
just spoke? Can I speak about them both at the same time? They're closely related. They're adjacent parcels of the port with the same parties to the lease.
Sure. We'll vote on them separately, obviously, but you can present on both of them together.
Great, thank you. So Board Bills 34 and 35 are renewals and extensions of existing lease agreements along the riverfront. To put it in perspective, if you take Shodo to the river and the flood walls there, this is basically property on the other side of the flood wall. It's been leased to Fred Weber since, I don't know, around 2011. And then Fred Weber has assigned it to a company called New Frontier Materials, Alpha LLC. These are both 10-year renewals with 3 5-year mutual options. I don't know what the current lease amounts are. I do know what the new lease amounts are. It's $52,000, I believe, for each one. Sorry, it's $52,000 for one for Board Bill 34 and $83,000 for Board Bill 35 in year 1, with increases annually at about 3%. I know Tom Ray from Armstrong Teasdale, who represents the Port Authority, and James Morrow, I believe from the City Councilor's office assigned to the Port Authority, are here if there's technical questions beyond that. But these are lease renewals that were negotiated by the Port Authority.
Great. And is it the same leasee for both 34
Yes, sir.
and 35? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I will entertain questions on Board Bill number 34. Actually, I should ask Mr. Ray, do you have any additional comments that you would like to add on either one of those board bills? Tom, are you here?
I have nothing at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Did you say that Susan was here as well?
No, I
James
believe
Morrow.
James Morrow is here. I don't know if Susan's here.
James,
Yes.
do you have anything that you would like to add?
Yes, these might appear familiar to the committee. This is actually an amended rate schedule to a lease extension that the committee approved last year. The assignee, New Frontier Materials, has come back asking for a change in the cost of the upfront rent. So the Port Authority has renegotiated a structure where they pay a bit less for the first 2 years, and then the rate increases the last 3 years. So the 5-year total coming to the city is approximately the same. It's just how much the lessee pays per year is different.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and open it up for questions from the committee. We'll start with Board Bill number 34. Alderman Vaccaro, do you have any questions? Alderwoman Middlebrook, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Narayan. Alderwoman Evans.
Sorry, no questions
Fine.
at this time.
Okay, Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Thank you, Chairman Cohn. I'm seeing asphalt concrete. Is that the kind of work that this company is doing there? I'm just interested in what they're doing.
Correct. So Fred Weber utilized this space for their sand and asphalt operations. It was a section of the riverfront where they could deliver some of the materials. So Board Bill 34 is what we call a working dock. It allows material to be offloaded from barges coming in. The site has been sold in kind of a package deal from Fred Weber to New Frontier Materials. And one of the reasons they're asking for a rate change is they are analyzing how exactly they want to use the space going forward. But the lease agreement only limits the permissible uses to sand and asphalt operations.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I see the cost in the lease agreement goes from 52 and then jumps up next year to 63. So they're expecting this 1 year to kind of reassess what they want to do. And do you think we should expect them to come back and try to renegotiate, or is this pretty set?
I think at this point it's going to be pretty set.
Okay, those are all my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Similarly, so I just want to be clear, is this an increase in the fee that they're currently paying, the 52,000, or are we negotiating downward because they're reassessing their operations there?
It is an increase in the fee compared to what they paid last year, but is less than the fee that we negotiated for the prior increase. So it's kind of in the middle. And then in year two, so year two was what we had originally negotiated for them to pay in year one before they came back to us asking for a reduced upfront cost.
So based off of the previous negotiations, they would have been paying the 63,000 this year. However, we're renegotiating it. So it's basically an increase from last year, but not to the extent of what we were initially planning on.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. I saw Alderman Shameen Clark Hubbard joined. Alderwoman, do you have any questions?
No, thank you for asking.
Yeah, I know you're not a member of the committee, but I do try and afford that opportunity for folks that are on the call. Alderman, I'm just as kind of standard practice at this point, given the circumstances of the Board of Aldermen, going to ask the question: have you received any donations from this company during this session?
No.
Okay, so not a reflection on you. Please don't take it that way. I'm just going to try and make that more of a habit for this session in particular, given the circumstances here. So appreciate your candor there. We'll go ahead and entertain a motion that we do pass Board Bill number 34 to the full Board of Aldermen.
So moved. Oh, with the
Second, previous row.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 13th Ward, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 4th Ward. There's been a call for previous roll by the Alderwoman from the 2nd Ward. Is there any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill number 34 passes out with a do pass recommendation. We'll take up similarly Board Bill number 35, since we already I'll just entertain questions from the committee in case there are any specific to this board bill. Alderman Vaquero. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Alderman Narayan. Alderwoman Evans.
I have no questions.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Thank you so much. Less a question than a comment. I see in this one, there's another, $83,000 then to $92,000 of lease agreement for the second parcel, which looks like it's a bridge for them to use. Is that correct? So that's the second half of the parcel is more of the transportation to the parcel.
Not quite, Alderwoman. The bridge, that's the MacArthur Bridge. So the parcel runs from, I think about 130 feet south of the MacArthur Bridge to about Convent Street. And the primary use of this parcel is for mooring. So what we did with this lease, they were originally going to pay $88,000 for the first year. We went ahead and negotiated down the square footage of the land, but increased the rate for the linear feet of the mooring. So they're paying now current mooring market rates for this particular leasehold.
Okay, thank you for that.
Great. I don't have any additional questions since it's the same leaseholder on this as the previous one. I will entertain a motion that we do pass Board Bill number 35 out of committee with a do pass recommendation.
So moved.
Second, previous roll.
Hey, it's been moved by the Alderwoman of the 13th Ward, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 2nd Ward. There's been a call for previous roll. Is there any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objection, Board Bill number 35 passes out of committee with a do pass recommendation. Alderman Coder, I appreciate your time this morning. I think that's all the board bills that you have before the committee, is it not?
Yes. Thank you, Chairman.
Awesome. Wonderful. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thank you also, Mr. Ray, Mr. Morrow, for your time this morning. You're welcome to stay and listen to the rest of the board bills before us. We have 4 that are for the airport, and I am the primary sponsor for all of those. I will start off by saying that I have not received any campaign contributions this session. So all 4 of them, I have not had any conversations with vendors, anyone at the airport with respect to any of that. So I'll kick it off with Board Bill number 22. Rob, I believe you are going to be the presenter on this particular board bill.
I am, Chairman.
Are you presenting on all 4?
No, Mr. Strong is also here, and he will present on the next 3. And of course, the airport director is here as well if we have any questions, if you have any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, Rob, do you want to start with Board Bill number 22 then?
Yes, Aldermen and Alderwomen, we respectfully request your approval of Board Bill number 22. This is a change to the airport solicitation process. Right, concurrently, the airport is limited to a solicitation for bid process where concessionaires bid the highest minimum annual guarantee. This allows us the option to convene selection committees and do request for proposal process, which is really the industry standard for airports. Where, I can't think of another public commercial airport that does things that procures concessions solely by solicitation for bid. This will allow concessionaires to be much more creative in their responses, and we'll be able to build programs with them during the negotiation process. It's a change. We will still have the ability, if we decide to use a solicitation for bid process where it's appropriate, but this is really another option for us, and we respectfully request your approval of this board bill.
Okay, thank you. We'll entertain questions on Board Bill number 22. Alderman Vaquero. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Alderman Narayan. Alderwoman Evans.
Sorry, I have no questions at this time. Thank you.
You're fine. Thank you. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Thank you so much. You said build programs with these concessionaires. What does that mean, build programs?
If we set up, for instance, we're looking at food and beverage or retail programs. If we set up a request for proposals process and we select the best program going forward, we're not locked into the exact program that they submit with their bid documents. We can work with them to build some changes and some adjustments and negotiate a final product that's really the best for the airport.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Alderwoman Boyd. I know you're not a member of the committee, just opening it up to others that might be on the call. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Oh, she had messaged me
No
earlier.
questions, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. If there's no other questions, then I'll entertain a motion that we do pass Board Bill 22 out of committee.
So moved.
Second.
I keep saying that. I'll entertain a motion that we pass Board Bill 22 out with a do pass recommendation. Can I get, who was the original?
So moved, Middlebrook.
Okay,
Second.
Previous.
Previous role.
great. It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the second ward, yes, and then seconded by the Alderwoman of the fourth ward. That's a little bit of a tongue twist there. There's been a call for previous role. Any objection to previous role? Hearing no objection, Board Bill number 22 passes out of committee with a do pass recommendation. Next on the agenda is Board Bill number 27. Mr. Strong, are you on the line?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Wonderful. Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you want to walk us through Board Bill number 27?
Yeah, so Board Bill 27, actually the next three board bills were previously presented to the Transportation and Commerce Committee. But because they were presented, I guess, kind of out of order through the legislative process, we are presenting them again. But I can just tell you that nothing has changed from the time that we presented them previously. But Board Bill 27 was regarding our airline incentive program. So it has become common practice for commercial service airports throughout the U.S. to utilize various types of incentive programs to attract new air service. So as you guys are familiar, we were able to attract Lufthansa to St. Louis Lambert International Airport. And one of the ways we attracted is with an incentive program. So since May 2007, the airport has had an incentive program, which has been successful in attracting new air service and been well received by the airlines. So most airlines have come to expect programs such as these, which results in incentive programs play an important role in an airline's decision to enter a new market or expand in the current market. These types of incentive programs, which in general waive various airport fees for limited periods of time, are accepted by the Department of Transportation and the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, as not violating federal aviation obligations imposed on airport sponsors. The Airport Incentive Program is designed to benefit both incumbent and new entrant airlines that initiate or grow passenger or cargo air service at the airport. The overall goal is to stimulate passenger or cargo air service by waiving those airport fees for a limited time period to ease the financial impact of starting new service. In the long term, by increasing the number of airlines serving the airport and increasing the number of destinations, the airport should expect increased airport operations and higher passenger and cargo throughput, which in turn increase activity overall and lowers airline costs overall in the long run. So what we are requesting, and you will see this in the Board Bill number 30, we are requesting that we increase the air service incentive program by $1 million. Currently, it was approved for about $2.4 million about a couple of years ago, and we want to increase it by $1 million to $3.4 million. And at this time, we respectfully request your approval for this airline incentive program.
Okay, thank you. I will entertain questions from the committee on Board Bill number 27. Alderman Vaquero. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
No questions, thank you.
Alderman Narayan. Alderwoman Evans.
Yes, I just have one question, and I just want to know, what was the incentive that you used to attract what's the name of the airlines?
Lufthansa.
Okay, I knew it began with an LUF. I wasn't quite sure how to pronounce it. Okay, so what was it that the incentive that you used to attract that airlines?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'll respond to that.
Absolutely.
So thank you. So the airport incentive, which for 2 years, if an airline commits to 2 years, we pay your landing fees on an international flight for 18 months. So the airport's responsibility, we will pay that landing fee for 18 months when they commit to a 2 years. They are obligated, if that they should depart prior to that they have to pay that back to us. That's the agreement. There was a broad, and we have a marketing package as well with that is $200,000 per year for those 2 years. We do get a good portion of that reimbursed through the state marketing dollars that are created. So while we pay it up front, we then get reimbursement for that from the state. There was a separate package that I went out and worked with the business community on, because while that's a good package, what we've seen in these markets the size of St. Louis is that other regions and other states have come to the table with a much broader package. And so there was a separate package from the airport, from the business community, which also was for the 2-year commitment. 2.5 million came from the Port Authority through the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership, and 2.5 million came from donations of members of Greater St. Louis, Inc. There were 8 separate companies. They then negotiated those terms directly with Lufthansa. So it's a separate package from the airport. There's a lot of commitments that both Lufthansa has to meet. And that amount, that 5 million for the 2 years, is only up to 5 million. The only way that they could take advantage of all of that is if they did 5-day-a-week service. So right now they're at 3-day-a-week service. So they won't be able to take full advantage of that unless they continue to increase the flight activity. But they are 2 independent packages, but I wanted to make sure that you knew that there was a community offer on the table, and then there was the airport offer.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions, Alderwoman?
No, that's it.
Okay. Alderwoman Schweitzer?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. My guess question is, when incentives like this are done, what is the expected turnaround for, if this much is invested, this is the amount that the airport's expecting to gain from this sort of investment or incentive? I'd love to hear a little bit about more how that those decisions come to be.
So I think there's a couple of things. One is that we can't say that each flight generates X amount of dollars. That's a harder number to pinpoint. But what we can say is that, there's studies across the country that have indicated that a nonstop European flight from a mid-sized market like St. Louis typically generates $50 to $100 million yearly on the economic value. That's not our report. That is an industry report, but based on the other markets of what they've seen, it's been between 50 to 100 million annually. So there is a nice return on that. I think the bigger piece, Committee Woman, is that we really, the ask from the region is to continue to grow the airport and to continue to offer flight opportunities. So every flight that comes in, we know it brings in parking revenue because it's bringing more people to the airport to park. We know that it's bringing in concession revenue because normally if someone's flying, they're going to get their Starbucks or their hamburger or whatever, their Vino Volo. We know that it brings in retail revenue because of the shops out here as well. And then you've got other modes of transportation, whether that's taxi, whether that's transportation network companies. All of those pay a fee to operate at the airport. So for every flight we bring in, we know that that's enhancing the amount of customers coming to the airport, both locally, but also that connecting opportunity. So I think for us, not only is the ask from the citizens to say we want more access, but the ask is to grow the revenues. So that's really the benefit of trying to market and get these flights. I think for a long time, we did not have the ultra low cost market like Spirit Airlines. A few years ago, we did get Frontier, but being able to bring in markets or airlines like that is critically important to growing the traffic, because they typically are not just stealing customers from another airlines, they're creating new customers because of that ultra low cost model. So through this marketing program, we've been able to bring in the ultra low cost carriers. We have the legacy carriers like American, Delta, United that have been around forever, which a lot of the business people like because of the product offerings they have. And then of course we have Southwest, which is kind of in between that ultra low cost and the legacy, but they bring that connecting traffic, and that connecting traffic that they're bringing is now up to 32% of their market share. So this program, I think, has allowed us to really enhance the offerings to the region and bring more people to the table. So I may not have answered your question exactly what you were looking for, but
No,
that's
you did.
that's the value we see of this program.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Those numbers are really exciting. I look forward to hearing what revenue it comes in to St. Louis after a year of operating this international airline. I look forward to next year's Transportation and Commerce meeting around this time. Hopefully I'm still on the board. Yeah, so I guess with this increase in the incentive program, if you can share with us what airlines or if it's not airlines and it's more routes, or what's the next thing that we're trying to get to St. Louis?
Right. So if it's the package that the airport presents under the FAA guidelines, we have to have the same incentive to any airline. If the community comes together and puts a package on a table, that's outside the FAA regulations, and they can pick and choose. So like, for instance, the 5 million that was put together from the region, the business community in that group was very specific that it had to be a legacy carrier, that it had to have business class. They can pick and choose and say, we would like X, Y, or Z. So I think what we're looking at are the markets that there's only about 2 markets that haven't come back from the pre-pandemic. So we had Indianapolis in there and it's still not back. So we're really targeting to try and get that market back, and Cincinnati. So Delta flew Cincinnati, they have not put that market back in. So those 2 are clearly our focus, because those are markets that we had before and we felt they were well served and the region really supported them. So we're working on those 2, hopefully that we can gain those back. The other thing we do is we look at, we buy all the data that tells us how many customers are going to each market every day from an end standpoint. So are they connecting somewhere, or do we have the nonstops? So we look at those next markets where we don't have nonstop service domestically, and we try and target those. Those are markets like Richmond, Virginia, Albuquerque. Those are kind of the next top 2 markets where we don't have service, but we know that we have close to 50 people a day that are going to them. So trying to, market those. So that's one piece. And then on the international front, that really, our goal is to make the Lufthansa flight successful and to get it to 5 days and hopefully next summer to daily service. I think if we can improve that and show that that flight can be successful, then there's other markets that we could look at in Europe that may not compete against Frankfurt, markets like Dublin, for instance, which doesn't necessarily compete against Frankfurt, or markets in South America, like Rio de Janeiro, or something that is, the larger markets in South America where we're starting to see more international traffic to and from St. Louis, both from a leisure and a business. So it's one of those that we look at every market across the world, but we really target those that we believe today people are flying to, and what do those numbers look like?
That's all very interesting. I look forward to hearing about it, and I thank you for your leadership at the airport. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Is Alderwoman Clark Hubbard still on the phone?
Yes, but I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Alderwoman Boyd, are you? I think she may have dropped off. Okay, so Rhonda, I appreciate the answers for the Alderwoman of the 13th Ward. I am curious, so with the incentive plan, you mentioned that the only way that they're able to fully realize that incentive is if they go to 5 flights a week.
Mhm.
So is it staggered though? So since they're currently only doing the 3 flights a week, is it virtually impossible for them to get the full incentive at this point in time because they're only doing 3? So is there a time period? Is it staggered so that, you know, if they do eventually get to 5 flights a week, that they get the full incentive? Or is it just because they are currently not at 5 flights a week, they'll never actually realize the full incentive?
Yeah, I think, you know, if they got to, and the flight's doing well, and they would have came in at 5 to start with, other than COVID and the concerns of at the time with the Omicron. They are very happy with the bookings. Lots of conversations with them this week. I do feel like by the spring we'll be at 5. If they decided that there was enough to support daily service at 7 days a week, then they actually could take advantage of the full 5. If they stay at 3 for the rest of this year and then move to 5 next year, they'll never get to that 5 million cap. It would be impossible. So it is a 2-year window, but that was what the business community wanted to try and put the incentive on the table to get to daily service. From our perspective, our requirement, they can take full advantage of the 18 months of the landing fee. So because it's paid by landing fee. So every flight they land, we pay that landing fee for them. So it's a little different between the airport and the business community package that's on the table. But if they stay at 3, they would take advantage of about half of that total package. If they go to 5 and then ultimately to 7, they still in that 2-year window could take advantage of it, Chairman.
Great. So I don't know if this is a question for you or for Mr. Strong, Antonio. So with the board bill before us, we're increasing the incentive fund to $3.5 million. Is that correct?
3.4 million.
3.4. So is the $2.5 million coming out of that 3.4 million, or is that kind of from a previous year's fund?
Yeah, so 2.4 million is what was previously authorized. And so we're just requesting to increase it by $1 million to 3.4 million.
Yeah.
So does that mean that we only have $1 million left for these other potential incentives that the director was mentioning, like Indianapolis, Cincinnati? I wrote down San Juan for some reason. I know you said Rio. Maybe I have San Juan on my mind.
Yeah, no, that doesn't mean that we just have $1 million. What that means is we have a fund of about authorized fund of about 2.4 million. We have used some of that. I don't know what the current balance is, but we still have some funds remaining from that 2.4 million. And so what we want to do is increase it by $1 million so that we can have more funds available. So let's say that we have 600,000 remaining out of the 2.4 million. So you have, what we're asking for is to add another $1 million to that, so that we'll have 1.6 million available for future.
Okay.
And to tag on that, if I may, Chairman, on the domestic side, the dollars are much less because it's not a wide body aircraft. So, if the Cincinnati market were to come back, the airline that previous flew it, they wouldn't be eligible for the incentive. If a new airline came in and flew it, they would be eligible. So there's a lot of restrictions within that program, but certainly on a domestic market, the amount of payout is significantly less because it's not a wide body aircraft.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. If there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion on board bill number 22 that we do pass, or that we pass out board bill number 22 with a do pass recommendation.
So moved.
Excuse me, Chairman Cohn.
Yes.
It's board bill 27.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I will entertain, I need to scratch that off my list. I will entertain that we move board bill 27 or pass board bill 27 out with a do pass recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Previous roll.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman of the 2nd Ward, seconded by the Alderwoman of the 4th Ward, And there's been a call for previous roll. Is there any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objection, Board Bill number 27 passes out with a due pass recommendation. Next on the agenda is, I'm going to scratch that one off, Board Bill number 28.
Hey, good afternoon again, committee members. So this is an annual request, and this is also one of the board bills that was presented previously around February or March timeframe. But this is annual request per our bond indentures and our airport use and lease agreement with the airlines. We are required to perform an annual $13.7 million transfer from our airport debt service stabilization fund to our airport revenue fund. The reason why we do that is to help us maintain a healthy debt service coverage ratio of 1.25 or better. And it also helps mitigate rates. When you can report a really healthy debt service coverage ratio, when you go out for bonds or do a bond refunding, if you can report that you got a debt service coverage ratio of 1.25 or better, you usually will come in with a good response to the bond sale. So we did request approval from the Airport Commission. We also, before we took this to the Airport Commission, we requested approval from the Comptroller's Office, and the Comptroller approved this. The current balance in the Debt Service Stabilization Fund is $26.9 million. Also, I should say that when we transfer this into our airport revenue fund, after year end, we actually transfer the funds back to the debt service stabilization fund. And so at this time, we respectfully request your approval to transfer the funds annually.
Great. I'll entertain questions on Board Bill number 28. Alderman Vaquero. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
I have no questions.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, no questions from Alderman Vaquero. I think I heard Alderwoman Middlebrook say she has no questions.
No questions.
Thank you. Alderman Narayan. Alderwoman Evans.
I have no questions, Mr. Chair, at this time.
Thank you. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
No questions, thanks.
Any other alder people on the line that have any questions? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to pass out Board Bill number 28 with a due pass recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Previous roll.
Okay. It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the second that we pass Board Bill 28 with a due pass recommendation. It's been seconded by the Alderwoman from the 4th Ward. There's been a call for previous roll by the Alderwoman of the 13th Ward. Is there any objection to previous roll? Hearing no objection, Board Bill number 28 passes out of committee with a due pass recommendation. Next on the agenda is Board Bill number 30. Mr. Strong. Also, it's morning. I think you said good afternoon. I know it probably feels like afternoon already for many of us.
Yep. So yeah, good morning again. So the this one is directly related to Board Bill 28. This is actually the funding of the airport incentive program. So we're asking for this approval to transfer that $1 million from our airport development fund to our airport contingency fund, which funds our incentive program. And then that funding would be for a 3-year period from now until the fiscal year 2024, increases the benefits to $3.4 million. And at this time, I respectfully request your approval.
Wonderful. I will entertain questions from the committee. Alderman Vaquero. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Alderman Narayan. Alderwoman Evans.
No question, Mr. Chair, at this time.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
No questions, thanks.
Okay, if there's no further questions on Board Bill number 30, I will entertain a motion that we pass Board Bill number 30 out with a due pass recommendation.
So moved.
So moved.
Second. Previous roll.
Okay, it's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 13th Ward, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 2nd Ward. And there's been a call for previous roll by the Alderwoman of the second ward. Is there any objection to previous roll?
It was so moved by the Alderman from Fourth Ward.
The 13th beat you out by just a little bit.
Did she?
She did.
Okay.
We can share it.
Thank you. Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill number 30 passes out with a do pass recommendation. That is all of the board bills that's currently on our agenda for this morning. Rob and Rhonda, I believe that you wanted to discuss the process from here on out in terms of the time frame for passage of these. I can call either one of you to have that conversation just to make sure that they pass out in the time frame in which they need to. So I will call you later today or tomorrow to discuss that, to see if we need to suspend the rules of the full Board of Aldermen or not. As you're probably aware, there's a lot going on at the Board of Aldermen at the present time, so situation is rather fluid. So I appreciate your patience as we kind of work through our own process over the next few days. Are there any, there's no resolutions. Do any of the committee members have anything that they would like to discuss? No, hearing nothing. I will move that we excuse the Alderman from the 24th Ward for necessary absence.
So noted.
Thank you. With that, that concludes the Transportation and Commerce Committee meeting for Wednesday, June the 8th. Thank you everyone for your time this morning. Very much appreciated.